Hello there and welcome to my YouTube channel. So, picking out your fabrics and colors for your quilt. Does that kind of stress you out? Yeah, I get it, because that used to be me. And you know what? It's not all that difficult to figure out how to make it work so that when you put together your quilt, it has that look and that feeling and the emotions that you want that quilt to have. So if that's you and you want to learn more about it, stay tuned. Hey, I'm Wendy Haney and I love quilting. And my goal of this channel is to help others realize quilting is not intimidating. It doesn't need to be difficult and complicated. So I'm going to help you figure that out and realize it's not intimidating so you can fall in love with quilting too. So here we go. As soon as I get my presentation to move forward. So in the past, I was a resounding yes as far as complications, stressed out about picking out fabrics. I would much rather see a quilt already pre-done in the fabric store and have them say, here's a kit, and I'd just buy the kit because then I knew it was going to look exactly like I wanted and I would be happy with it. But that's not always possible. Kits aren't available for everything, and sometimes maybe I didn't quite want what they had in the kit. Well, my husband is actually much better at picking out colors than I was. I am much better now than in the past. But so many times I had this feeling of what I wanted that quilt to be. And I couldn't quite explain it to him, and so his ideas of the colors didn't quite jive with what I wanted with it. So that wasn't working very well. But guess what? I learned that picking out colors is not just something, oh, you're artistic, you're good at that, you can do that. Nope. Picking out colors is also a science. And guess what? Science can be learned. And no, don't freak out the word science, it's just one of those things that it's a skill that you can learn. And you know what? I also discovered there's a lot of cool help on the internet that can help you out a lot. The other thing is, color is subjective. So as I said, Kevin's like, oh, these colors would be good and this would work. And I'm like, oh, no, I'm just not feeling it. It's not what I'm looking for. It fit for him, but it didn't fit for me. The same, it just goes for everybody. But you know what? There are some rules, if you will, that can go a long way in helping you kind of pick out color palettes for your quilts. And that's what I'm going to help you with today. A few key things to know. So sometimes you'll hear when people are talking about color a various set of words. Hue. The hue is a pure color. It's that, in this case, the example up here, it's that pink. It's pink. There's no white, there's no black, there's no gray. It's just pure pink. That is a hue. If you add a little white to it, it starts to get a little paler, and that is considered a tint. You add a little gray to it, and now you've got a tone. And you add a little black to it, and now you've got a shade. And all of those are in the pink category on the color wheel, but they're shaded a little differently. And obviously, when you go into the quilt store, oh my gosh, you've got the whole doggone color wheel here with a variety of things. So just keep that in mind when we're talking about the colors coming up, because it's not just about the hue, it's that whole hue, tint, tone, shade. Value. Value is important because it's not just about the color, but it's whether it's light or dark. And I talked about that being your shade, your tone, and your tint. So over here, we've got your pure color, your hue. But then as we add black, add gray, or add white, everything shifts. And so it's still the same color in the color wheel, so to speak, but it's got other tones there. And so basically you want a variety of that value in your quilt. You don't want everything to be that pure, bright color because, well, there's kind of no place to focus on things. And so you want to balance colors of varying values and saturation in your quilt to add value. So here I took a photo of 3 different red fabrics. So over here, this one here on the right of red is probably probably closest to a purer color. But as we go to the left, we're getting darker. And so you're going to see the different values. I converted that same image to black and white, and there you can really see those value changes. And so when you're picking out colors, it might be beneficial, take a photograph and then switch that photo to black and white. And you're really going to be able to see the values that you've chosen in your quilt. And if it seems to be really heavy on the dark side, then find something, excuse me, on the lighter side. So here's the thing. We're going back to that color wheel. I know, if you're like me, every time I walk through these color things and people help you pick it out, and they talked about complementary and triadic and this and that, and I'm like, oh, I can't remember all this. I don't want to have to remember that. You don't need to remember it. But it will give you a basis for some things. So, maybe you throw a printed little color wheel in your purse or something, and you keep it handy once in a while. You don't need to know what the names are. The key thing, though, is there are key components, key matches, color harmonies that help you choose color combinations that are appealing, cohesive, they look good together, that you can invoke those emotions or those mood. And if you don't use color harmonies, it can either be one of two things a lot of times, bland and boring, and you go, well, the colors are okay, but it's kind of boring. Or there's so many colors all over the place, your eyes just don't know where to land. Number one, complementary colors. Most of the time people kind of know what this is. Complementary colors are colors which are opposite on the color wheel. And I've created a very simplistic color wheel that has basically some primary hues on here without all the variations in between. So basically, colors that are opposite, and they create high contrast with a warm and a cool. A lot of times you'll see sports teams, their uniforms are complementary colors. Broncos, blue and orange, for example. And so maybe you don't want every quilt to look like a sports team. But remember, you can do this, but then have value, shades, tints, hues, all the way through the quilt that would still work fine. I'll admit, I don't have an example of a quilt that's really using two complementary colors. Analogous. Woo! It's been a long day to say that word. These are colors that are adjacent on the color wheel. They're harmonious, they're low contrast, they're easy to look at, and they're often colors that are found in nature. Well, I found two quilts that I made recently. Okay, maybe not that recently, but I made that I can look at now and go, oh, look, analogous. This one I made for my brother-in-law, and I've got a more complex color wheel over here so you can see that we've got lots of oranges and yellows and different tones in there. Well, guess what? They're all right here on the color wheel. They're analogous. Now the black can goes in there, and well, it's just a shade, if I got that right, that's got a lot of black at it. And what I did was I started with this this border fabric and then kind of used that to set the stage for the other colors. As well as I had these word gap on my words, these word panels that also had a color tone in them that I used as the basis to start picking out my colors. This is my most favorite quilt. This quilt I made for my sister. And yes, this quilt came in a kit and I loved it. But in looking at it now, I can see it's analogous. Because, granted, it's not just 3 colors on the color wheel, but if you look at it, it kind of goes from some of these blue greens all the way over here to the purple. So it's a big, but they're all right there together on the color wheel. I love the feeling of this quilt. It's calm, it's colorful. I love it. I love the colors. Okay, the next one up is the triad. So these are 3 colors evenly spaced around the color wheel. So here, orange, then you've got three spaces, your green, 3 more, and your purple, and then 3 more to back to it. So you've got your purple, your orange, and your green. It gives you high contrast. The suggestion is to use one color to lead and then the others as your accents. I looked at this quilt that I made quite a while ago, and basically I picked out colors that I liked. But in looking at it, it kind of falls into the triad if you don't look too closely at that bright yellow border. But I've got my oranges, my green, and some purples in there. So it kind of falls in there. And that's the key thing with this. These are just harmonies that are kind of predefined and say these things work well together to give you a starting point. It doesn't mean it's a rule and you have to follow it. Split complementary. So we've got our green down in the bottom again, but now instead of going up to the complementary red, we go 1 over. So we kind of got a magenta and an orange. And it gives you strong visual contrast, but a little bit less tension. And they say it's really good for beginners, as it's pretty kind of difficult to mess up. Well, guess what? This quilt that I made for my niece, I guess I kind of fell into that category. So we've got a little bit of orange. We got some kind of that burgundy magenta over here. And there's my greens. It's not identical, but I can look at it now and go, oh, yeah, it kind of falls into that space. Then you've got the double complementary, or I've heard it called the tetradic. Tetradic? Something like that. Once again, don't worry about the names of it. But what we've got here is 2 complementary colors. So we've got our green and our red, but then we've got our blue and our orange. So 2 complementary colors, and it gives you a rich color scheme with lots of possibilities. They suggest you let one color dominant and basically also pay attention to your balance between warm and cooler colors. Well, I don't know if I balanced it or not. I think it's just all bright. But in looking at this color, this quilt that I made for my brother, it's got your blue and your orange. There's my blues, there's my orange, there's my red, and there's my green. So double complementary. Yes, it's a lot of brights. So I probably would have been better off if I figured out a way to add some more value in there and had a little bit lighter or tinted tones instead of all this in-your-face bright. But basically, I started with this border fabric and went with it. Once again, it all depends on your style and what you like. So guess what? Nothing's wrong. So, can any color go with any color? Yep, any hue can go with any hue. In other words, any of the any of the base colors that are not tinted or shades or whatever can go together. Tones work together, and then you combine a hue with another hue. What color season do you prefer? Well, guess what? Remember, I don't know, maybe they still talk about it today, when you're figuring out your makeup and your clothes, and they say, oh, you're best this season. You're an autumn tone. Yep, well, guess what? We can do the same thing with colors. And each of us are drawn to colors and fabrics. Yep, I know. I am totally addicted to those autumn fall colors. You find me a fall leaf pattern, I gotta buy it. I do. But there are other seasons as well, and some of those also can work together. So let's go through those. So maybe you don't want to think about, oh my God, complementary, tetradic. I don't know. Let's talk about seasons. Spring, bright, light, clear, and warm. Just, that lovely, lovely spring colors. It's just got a ton of energy, and it goes from pastels to lime green. Just quite a variety in there. And then you've got summer. It's cool, it's delicate, it still has soft and light, and you'll get it. Some of these each of these seasons has things that are common with other seasons, and others they're very different. Summer, I'm like, oh, I love this one. I love the tone of this. I love that beach feeling. So I would like to make a quilt that has that beachy feeling. Well, probably falls into the summer palette. It's muted and light, all sorts of things, different palettes you can have. Autumn, my favorite, that rich, intense, fiery, but at the same time it can be muted. So we've got this over here and our fiery and oh, my lovely autumn colors, my reds. This is my favorite. Autumn has the widest gambit of tones, that rich, earthy, intense, but it can still be muted. And there's no neon. Both of these two color palettes I pulled from Sarah Renee Clark's website, which is very handy. And I'm going to talk about that in a bit. Winter, bright, cool, clear, intense. Yeah, some of those intense colors. I love this one too. I'm not so much a summer spring, but the winter autumn, I love these colors. This is also where the brights come in. So if you're a person that like those bright colors, that would fall into kind of the winter season. This is also where black works really well to complement that. There's nothing muted in here. They're just like extremes. So can you mix and match the seasons? Yes, but it could be a little tricky. So the spring and the winter actually pair up easily. Spring and winter are both bright and clear, whereas one's cool, the other one's warm. Whereas summer and autumn can combine well because of their clarity. They have a lot of varying things, but they just work well together. And brights go well with brights. So your spring, winter, that's where your brights come in, and your more muted comes in with your summer and your autumn. So here's what I recently discovered that comes in so handy is, guess what? You can just go to the internet and type in color palettes, color schemes, images. So, you could go to Google and type in summer color scheme images, or Pinterest, do the same thing, or Christmas color palettes. And you know what? A great site I found is the sarahreneeclark.com. She has a ton of palettes. In fact, you can actually purchase a catalog of her palettes you want. She's kind of gearing it not towards the quilter necessarily, but towards people that are artists that are drawing with Prismacolor pencils and those kind of things. And basically she's matched up her palettes to say, hey, Prismacolor number blah, blah, blah is this. And so put these 4 color pencils together for this palette, which I'm like, ooh, that could be very interesting. But she's also just got palettes together. So here on Google, I just Googled autumn color schemes images. So then I'm not getting all sorts of advertisements. It's showing me the images. And look at these. It's so easy for you to look through these and go, oh, that's the feeling I want. That's what I want. I want that lake and the fall colors and the rich tones in there. Or, I don't. I want this more muted browns. So you can just go through here and find a palette that speaks to you for what you want in your quilt. With that said, don't worry about, this quilt only needs 2 colors, or if this quilt only has to have 12 colors. This gives you a starting point of the colors to look at, such that you could start pulling things together and at least be getting the emotion and the feeling that you're looking for. It's a great starting point. I did the same thing on Pinterest looking for Christmas color palettes. And this is a really pretty one. Green, beige, silver, red. Look at over here. All sorts of ones. I'm actually doing a Christmas tree skirt for somebody, and it's going to be red, green, silver. And somebody else wants red, green, gold, and, a beige, a cream. And I can look at these and go, yeah, those are the tones that I want. That's the look that I want. So here's again this 250 New Color Palettes catalog from Sarah Renee Clark. All of these I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to totally change the way when I'm looking to start picking out fabric that I can go get some ideas as a starting point. Because I've learned if you've got a starting point, you're halfway there. The other thing you can do is take your quilt pattern, and it's probably got blocks in it. So I actually use electric quilt, and I know you're a beginner, you're just getting started, so don't worry about that. But go get a white piece of paper, get a ruler out, it doesn't need to be size, and draw out your block. So you've got your block drawn out on a piece of paper, then go Google your palettes, figure out some colors you want to try, and then get some colored pencils out, colored crayons, colored markers, whatever, and start coloring in your block and get a sense of what you like. And you go, nope, not feeling it. Throw it out, make another copy, start over. Colors, crayons, paper, it's a great way to get a feel for things before you buy that fabric and cut into it. So here's an example where they started with this border fabric, and then that drove the other colors. But then they pulled out that teal and they used very little of it, but it kind of provided a really nice focus with that color. The other thing you want to look at, excuse me, other than just color when you're picking out your fabrics, is the scale of the print and the contrast. So there's big prints and small prints, and they can look very different even if they're similar colors. So smaller prints really read almost like a solid fabric. So when you're picking things out, kind of pay attention to that. If you look at colors, fabric collections that have already been, well, they're collections. They've been made that way. You'll notice they have bigger sizes, medium, little, solids. They have a wide variety. So think about the same thing and seeing how those play together when you're picking out your fabrics as well. As I said, pick a focus fabric. In one of the examples, you could pick out this focus fabric and then use those colors as a starting point and finding them from there. Now, this may not always be the best place to start. If you really can't find a big focus fabric that has lots of colors, don't then. It doesn't matter. Go back to the palettes of Googling and finding some and start there, because you're going to see then what goes well and what plays together nicely. Sometimes though, I have a print fabric that I'm totally in love with and I want to do something with it. So then I want to build my scheme of my quilt around that focus fabric. So you could find the focal fabric and then choose your coordinating prints, playing off the colors, some smaller prints, maybe some medium ones. If you're overwhelmed, buy a bundle. If you still can't decide, just shop within a collection because they already go together. All else fails, get a kit. It's easiest to do, especially if you're ordering online, because then you can see and know exactly what you're getting. Otherwise, but do what works best for you. Don't let anybody tell you, oh, well, you went and got a kit. Sorry. That was a good move on your part, getting a kit. It works. So you have to do what works for you and doesn't stress you. And if that means getting a kit or using fabrics all in a collection, then go for it. And as you grow in your quilting, you will learn what you like and how to do things where you're more comfortable picking out your own fabrics. That's what happened to me, and it's taken me a long time. Key thing, there is no wrong answer. It's about what you like. So never let somebody look at your quilt and criticize or judge your color choices. No, just don't. Because you chose it. If you're happy with it, that is all that matters, because all of our tastes and experiences are different. And if it's working for you, then go for it. And experience and experimenting. So maybe you really, really liked it. And then once you got it done and you're sitting back and going, well, I like it, but maybe it's not quite what I wanted. Fine. You'll learn something from it and you're going to be able to do better the next time. You can also just go totally scrappy. That works too. I can't quite do that because people say, oh, just put the scraps in a bag and then just pull from them. Nope. Sorry. Way too anal for that. The other thing is, a lot of times once you get your fabric cut out and you start putting things together, it looks a whole lot different than when you're staring at a whole big bolt of fabric and trying to pick things out. So please don't stress about it. Have fun with it, because you know what? Even if you choose things and you get it together and you get that quilt together and you go, not quite what I wanted. Guess what? You learned something. Hopefully you still enjoyed the process and you're at the next step, so you know more about quilting and you'll do better. You'll be happier with things the next time. So just keep moving forward. And that's all we've got. So just remember that. Don't stress about it. Do what works best for you and just keep moving forward. Thanks so much and take care. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to stay up to date with all the new stuff I'm dropping, subscribe to the channel and hit the little bell icon. That way you'll be notified anytime I drop a new video into the channel. I'll be posting new videos every Friday morning with lots of great stuff that you aren't going to want to miss. I also would love to have you join me in my Facebook group. I have a private Facebook group that we're sharing things about life that I love. Quilting, needlework, machine embroidery, wine, books, a lot of fun stuff. So I'd love to have you join me over there. You can find it at facebook.com/group/lifefulfilled. I also can be found at the normal ways: Pinterest, Instagram, etc. You can find in the description below all the links of the places to find me, including wendyjhaney.com. If you found this video helpful, I would love to have you give me a thumbs up, drop me a comment, let me know what you'd like to see. Take care, and thanks for watching.